All right. Hello, everyone. It's been a little while. Thought I would touch base. Today, we're going to be discussing trusts. I'm going to try and keep this as simple as possible because it is also very complex and it can go on and on. It's kind of a self created thing, so it's an open book to how you create that. But there is a very simple, basic structure to what a trust is, and I'm going to help bridge the gap between the public private aspect of a trust and how it works in the public and the private. Today, we're going to just focus on the very simple triangle of a trust, and then we'll slowly bridge our way into everything else following this class. So, what is a trust? I didn't understand what trust meant for quite a while. So, broken down like this, I hope you get it. Trust triangle, okay, like we talked about before, with the Trinity, is another example of how it can be used in communication expressed through paperwork, let's say. It doesn't have to be paperwork, but it definitely, if it's in writing, we know what someone has asked for. You'll understand in a second. A trust is, very simply put, a treasure chest. Keep it really simple like that. Here's a treasure chest. Someone puts treasure in it. Okay, that is now property. The person who did that is called the settlor or grantor. There's other names for this. There's a trustor, a creator, a founder, a donor, a maker, an assignor, or a transferor. I like that they're all ors. And all trust, it can only be established from God, who is the benefactor, who gave us the world. So you can see it starts from that same principle. So the settlor in Canada, grantor in the U.S., same thing, establishes that they want to put their property, whatever that is, money, assets of any kind, investments, housing, like property, all of this can be put into that treasure chest. That treasure chest is the trust. The settlor wants to give that treasure chest to someone, but they might die. They might not be here. They don't know what's going to happen. They need to make sure that their property is going to go to the people they want it to go to. And those people are called the beneficiaries. They receive the benefit of the treasure chest, whatever context that might be set up as. It could be through, if someone needs to go to school, there's money for them, or if the kid, the parents pass away and the kid needs money, when they grow up, they'll receive it at a certain age. Whatever is decided by the settlor grantor, how the money property trust is going to be passed on to the beneficiaries. We'll get into that in a second. So, the settlor needs to get this property to the beneficiaries. The same thing is like, I have a letter and I need to get it to someone, and I give it to a postman. The postman has taken a role and he is going to deliver this property to the person who's going to receive the property, the benefit. So the settlor fills the trust. He needs somebody to make sure that the beneficiaries receive the property. That is called a trustee. A trustee holds the key to the treasure chest. They have what's called a fiduciary duty. If you don't know what that is, very simply put, they're honest, careful, loyal, responsible for the property to get it to its agreed destination. So I have a letter, I give it to someone, they're now in charge of that letter. They are holding it in trust. They're basically the person I am trusting, if I'm the settlor, to deliver this letter to that person. If they fail on that, they failed their fiduciary duty. They broke trust. And then we can get into a whole thing about that. But that's their job. Their role is to bring the property to the beneficiaries in whatever context that is. Okay? The beneficiaries receive the property, but they receive it under the rules set up by the settlor grantor, who creates the trust, fills the treasure chest, creates the rules for the trust. This is primarily called a trust indenture. It's basically the rules of the trust. I have the trust, I put in a property. Now I need to create rules that are followed when this property is passed on. So it's kind of like a will in a sense, but it's for a trust. And you're filling out everything that this is in this trust, how it's going to be given to who, under what context. Is it going to go to a person? Is it going to go to someone, some entity, corporation, whatever you want it to go to? It can go to anyone. It can literally pass on to as a donation, your entire trust property. You can do it anything you want with it, really. You can set it up so your children are receiving it at age 25 when you know that they're a little bit more of sound mind to be responsible with the property of the trust. You can do it in piecemeal if you want the property to be slowly given out to children in that context. You can make sure it's really up to you. The rules are yours. It's private in nature, and no one has oversight over this but you. Because the thing about a trust is it's between you, the trustee, and the beneficiaries. That's it. All under the eyes of God. That's it. I'll explain that in a second down here. So, the trust indenture is the paperwork. It's the agreement. It's the thing that everyone can look at and go, this is what was intended for the property. Very simple, very basic, but the paperwork can be as complex as you want it to be and as wordy and full as you desire it to be. My paperwork's at like 25 pages right now, so it's thick. It's got every rule in it. It's what is this property? Who's it going to? How's it going to be used? All this kind of stuff. So it just lays out the rules of the trust. So that is your trust indenture. Trustee has to follow the rules for the beneficiaries. So they don't have any control. The beneficiaries have no control over the rules of the trust. They just receive the benefit. Okay, so now we're going to quickly explain this in another way so you can see it, and we'll go into another video today. I just want to keep this very simple. Settlor fills the trust. The trustee holds the key and waits till the proper time so the beneficiaries can receive the property of the trust. That's it. That's a trust. That's the triangle. Someone sets it up, fills it up, make sure someone's responsible to look after it until the designated time that the people who it's meant for receive it. That's it. That's a trust. Now, under God, we have the air, and we have the land and the water. The land is private in nature. That's the human vessel, the body, the material world. It is the benefactor created us, put us on the land, right? We are now have dominion on the land. So we are our own beings. There's nothing between us and God. Nothing. It's only us and God, the children of God and God. But we need to do something called commerce, so we can trade and transact and share the wealth of God amongst each other. And so that's where money comes in and how we use commerce. So God is always watching, is the concept. And the private people want to trade and do commerce of cargo and property, and that is on the water. Okay, so that's the public side of things. They're totally different jurisdictions. The public side is doing all commercial trade, all government stuff, all corporations, everything that exists in commerce, bonds, assets, everything exists in commerce is over on the public in this context. We need a tool for the land and the water to communicate. Right now, in the public, with your sin and everything else that you have, you are designated as public property, even your body, until you separate yourself and put yourself back in the land. You are public property. And so, or at least you're perceived as public property. That includes your body. That's why they can do whatever they want to us. They can tax us. They can force us to do things if they truly wanted to, throw us in jail for breaking public rules and all this kind of stuff, because that's all public. So now we need a way to communicate so we can still do commerce from trust, from the private, or build trust from the private. So we set up a trust, which we're going to talk about here, which is our property, and we want to do something with it. And we communicate to the public. So it's a tool of communication. And it's overseen by God. Okay, that's the idea of equity, common law. So you can't break this. You can't break the rules. You have to live by the golden rule. If you lie, cheat, steal, all this kind of stuff, you're breaking the law. That's literally either side. You're breaking the law. So we create a tool to communicate in the public. So now the public can see us, because it doesn't see the land people. It can only see commercial trade, cargo and such. So it needs to communicate. So we use a trust to communicate. And the trust is overseen by God, is the idea. So the way to communicate, like we're talking about, we need some way to communicate, because right now you could have a trust that is set up within the system of the public. You can still do that as well. But by doing so, the public system, the government and so on, country of Canada, which I call the Corporation of Canada or the Corporation of the United States, has interest, which means it's pierceable, and that trust isn't fully private in nature. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you if the corporation has an interest in it, or that means they have some investment in it. It means they have some say. It means they have some control, and they can come in and do whatever they want to it at any time, because it's not technically fully yours or private in nature. You're giving access to them to have permission to tell you what to do. You don't have to do that. You're private in nature. You only have God to deal with in that context. So what you want to set up is something called a foreign grantor trust. You can set this up in any country. You're foreign in nature to that country. So that country has no interest in you. It has no way of taxing you, because it's not part of that country. It's foreign in nature. And then you're the grantor trust, right? So you're the grantor of this trust, and it's foreign. So it doesn't belong to that country. It has no say on what happens in that trust. Commercially, it has no say, right? So, as I said, it's not part of any country, or I say corporation. You're completely foreign in nature. And so the idea is you're going to be setting up a foreign grantor trust. Now, how does that trust technically communicate? I didn't put this on here, but I'll say it now. Because, like I said, we need a trust to do communication between these two sides. Okay? I want to keep my trust in private. So I need to keep this trust over here, so that it's not on this side. If it's on this side, they have interest, it's pierceable, they can come after it, they can do whatever they want. But if I can keep the trust on this side private, I need a way so that they can communicate. As a public entity, we have a SIN, social insurance number, or SSS number in the US. That's our public entity that we have. So what does the private trust, how can it now do commerce? It needs something called an EIN. EIN. Okay? Forgot what EIN means right now, but it's fine. It's an EIN. It's basically your SIN, but for the trust. And that way, that entity, that trust, that private trust, can communicate and have a business number, is basically what you're giving that trust, is a business number. And from there, you're going to need to create a bank account that is a non-interest bearing bank account with a bank, which is not easy if you don't know what you're doing. So don't just jump out there and try and do any of this. That's all private. If you want to know more, there's a lot of information to clarify this, but don't just jump into this. This is only for viewing pleasure, to understand the basic concepts. Okay? So the EIN is basically the business number for your foreign grantor trust. And you're going to need then a bank account for that foreign grantor trust to hold its property and assets in, that has no pierceable interest by any of the public side. It's completely private in nature. That means taxes and so on and so forth, which are all voluntary for the private land people and private trusts. They can pay the taxes, but that's all voluntary. That's not part of the public side. All right, I hope that made some sense. Please feel free to comment below. Tell me what you think, if you like this, and if you have any questions that you still need clarified as we move forward. Yeah, trust, super simple. Fill a treasure chest, give someone the keys till it's ready to be passed on to someone else. That is a trust. How we set that up can be private or public in nature. And that's foreign would be in the private, or a normal trust, technically non-foreign trust, would be in the public, so you are aware. So if you're setting up a trust, hey, I want to set up a trust. Well, technically that's going to be most likely in the public. And that means it can be taxed and so on and so forth. There are so many benefits to a trust, regardless if it's private or public, for estate planning, taxes, safe havens, all these kind of things that we're not usually taught unless you've been taught the private side of the world, but most of us have been taught through the public education system. So we don't know that these things technically exist. The public trusts are still valuable and can be used very well for insurance purposes and a way to pass on property and protect yourself from creditors if you pass on and your estate is still in the public. So you can make sure all of your property is passed on to who you want it to, the beneficiaries, without going through things like probate, etc. Yeah, here we go. All right. So, foreign grantor trust. Protect yourself, your assets. See you next time.